With Ed Berliner, J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back to the anchor desk inside our Newsmax Election Center. And Ed, voters now have a way to express themselves like never before and instantaneously.
Any place in the world, as a matter of fact. Exit polls still serve a very important purpose. Twitter and Facebook give you an instant index of just how the voters feel.
And to make sure you're heard tonight, we brought in the Newsmax new media specialist to keep track of what you're talking about right now. Silva Harpetian is in our exclusive Max Cafe, and she'll run down the trending issues for us. Silva, give us the lowdown on what you're seeing. What are people reacting to tonight?
You know, we're using Facebook, Twitter, and of course YouTube, and doing Skype interviews to get the very latest, not only from people at the polls, but also inside the campaigns. Right now, we're going to talk about the Louisiana Senate race because that race just was called. In fact, it was so close that it's headed to a runoff election. I'm going to introduce Curtis because Curtis spent a lot of time not only investigating each candidate, but also talked about, investigated and researched the strategies, the social media strategies in each campaign. This was a very interesting campaign because there was one thing that one candidate said that really just went viral, and despite that, it was still a close race.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Mary Lindrew actually, was quoted on NBC News saying, "I'll be very, very honest with you, the South has not always been the friendliest place for African Americans." So that exploded on social media as a racist comment, and actually ended up, her profiles actually ended up not belonging to her in regards to content, negative content being filled on her social profile.
When you say not belonging to her, obviously there were her profiles, her Twitter account and her Facebook account, but the reaction to what she said was so huge in the virtual world that it was almost very difficult to contain. Can we take a look at some of those comments that we saw online? And despite all of this, it was still a very close race. 50% is what was needed in this case in order for it not to go to runoff election, but it still did. So we're gonna take a look at some of the comments that we saw here in this race in response to the comments she made on NBC News. What did people say about this?
I mean, we can see up here on the screen, people are saying, calling the racist comments out here, sarcastic remarks such as, if she loses, it'll be due to her state being full of racists and sexist. People really ate this up and really, really made it really bad for Mary. But regardless, we're going to December with this. So.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait to December until we know who really won this race. But it was a very interesting because social media played a humongous role in this particular campaign. And obviously, as long as people are talking about it, as long as people are engaged and they get to the polls, sometimes it works for a candidate and sometimes it doesn't. That's what makes all of this so fascinating. Well, we're here at Max Cafe, and come on back here for the next opportunity to talk about more about the campaigns and the candidates.
Thank you very much. That always amazes me how people just quite don't sometimes understand the power of social media. It will come back to snap at you sooner or later. Let's go ahead and snap our way up to Philadelphia right now. Political consultant and strategist Dick Morris is standing by. He has been watching the numbers all night long, and he has been watching specifically numbers in New Hampshire and so many of the other races. He's got his take on it right now as we update. Dick, it's to you.
Well, start with New Hampshire, which was I think prematurely called for Sheehan. The race is now tied 50-50 with 2,600 votes separating the two candidates. Sheehan's still ahead. I would not write that race off, and the percentage of the vote counted is still only 59% of the vote. So I think we still have a shot there. In North Carolina, the Republican Tillis has now taken a 2-point lead with over 80% of the vote counted. I think that one is going to definitely be likely be a Republican takeaway. Kansas, the Roberts has gone to a 3- and 4-point lead with about half the vote counted, which is pretty substantial, and it means we'll probably hold that seat. Also, everybody's misunderstanding what's going on in Louisiana. Landrieu was supposed to win the Louisiana primary by 8 to 10 points. She was supposed to win 44-35. With the third candidate, Manis, coming in at about 13. Manis did come in at 13, but now Landrieu is actually trailing Cassidy by 2 points. In other words, Landrieu was going to come in first. Everybody said that, but then Cassidy would go to all of Manis's vote and would beat her in the runoff. Now it turns out Landrieu isn't even finishing first, probably because of those racist and sexist comment that your social media people picked up. This is a total disaster for Marie Landrieu. She's dropped like 10 points in the last 3 or 4 days because of that comment. And it's obviously a certainty that Louisiana is going to go Republican in the runoff. So right now everybody's saying +5, but that's a technicality. It's in fact +6. The Republicans, as of right now, have won control of the Senate.
All right, Dick Morris, thanks so much for your comments. We'll be back to you, running out of time very quickly again. And while Dick was talking even, some of the numbers in Louisiana have changed. Cassidy now 43%, Landrieu 39%, and Manis 15%. That is changing as well, and it's interesting. We're going to have to watch his numbers on New Hampshire as well.
Well, the backlash and the social media proved it, as we heard from the Max Cafe. It was not the night Mary Landrieu was hoping for, even though she thought she'd be in a runoff next month.
So far, it's the night the Republicans are hoping for. We'll bring you a lot more numbers and find out what's happening around the country when You Decide 2014 continues.
The midterms, You Decide 2014 will be back in just a moment.